Good morning, folks. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. Today's video is on the best and most comprehensive football platform that's currently out on the market, and that is Soccerverse. In today's episode, I want to discuss player agents, which I know is a very controversial topic at this moment in time. There's been a lot of heated discussion on the Discord channel over the last few days, and I just want to give my opinion on where I stand. Now, before I start, I just want to be open and honest, and I can see both sides of the argument. However, I just want to give you my opinion on why I believe player agents should have a lot of control and power on where their asset moves to in terms of clubs, etc. Now, over the last few days on Discord, I've heard words used like unethical, agents threatening managers, etc., which, in all honesty, I think is over the top to use words like that. Ultimately, to become a player agent, you have to pay money to have that privilege. Now, in my opinion, I believe the player agent should have a major say on where that player ends up. Ultimately, whilst you're the player's agent, that's your asset. You should have control, again, in my opinion, on where that player should end up going. It would happen 99% in real life, and it should be no different on Soccerverse. Now, it's funny because before this all started blowing up on Discord, I was contacted by Protagonist, who's obviously a major whale on the game. Now, I've obviously asked his permission for me to discuss our conversation. I'm not going to go into it all. I haven't just made a video saying, oh, look at me, I've spoken to one of the biggest whales, if not the biggest whale on the game. So he's fully aware that I'm creating this video. And like I said, a few days before it all blew up on Discord, he asked me whether I'd be interested in taking certain players on loan. However, because of the loan system is not in play at this moment in time on Soccerverse, I believe it will be introduced sometime during season 2. Protagonist explained to me a possible way of getting around um, the loan system as it currently stands. Now, in a nutshell, what he's said to me is, I will bid a certain amount for a player. Anyone who bids over that amount, then they will be penalised because he's the player agent, that he will put the player morale down, etc. So if a player is 75, he's going to technically be a 65 player if the transfer was to go ahead. So he would advise other people who are bidding not to bid because he wants his player to go to a certain club. Now, personally, I don't find any issue with that whatsoever because, like I said, Protagonist has paid for the privilege to become that player agent, and he should have control of where that player goes. I don't believe Protagonist telling somebody, please don't bid on this player because I want him to go to a club, would be deemed as threatening. I don't believe it's unethical because, like I said, this goes on in the real world probably every day of the season. Player agents over the last 20, 30 years have become more and more influential within the game. Whether that's a good or bad thing, that's not up for discussion here. We'll all have our own opinions, but ultimately that's what's gone on and that is what's happening. And they will become, in my opinion, even more stronger as time goes on. Now, the player in question, we've got nothing to hide here, by the way. We're showing you because we just want to be transparent in what's going on. And like I said, Protagonist is fully aware of this video being made. So the player concerned is Kalamadine Salmana. He was at Southampton. I believe he's just signed for Atlanta or Atalanta in real life. Now, because there's no loan system, like I've already said, in place at this moment in time, the way of getting around this is he will put a player up for sale. I will bid a certain amount, which is obviously going to be the maximum. So, for example, with this gentleman, Salmana, my bid will be 3 million quid. Now, like I said, if anyone bids over that amount, they can end up with a 63 player, because if he doesn't go where protagonist wants him to go to, then ultimately that player is going to become unhappy. So it makes no sense for anyone to outbid, because ultimately you're going to be paying over the odds for a 63 rated player, not a 73. Now, if I was to be successful in this bid, there's obviously trust involved between me and the agent, protagonist, because that player is going to eventually be at Taunton Town. And the agreement I have with protagonist on this one player is in 2 years' time that he will be going back to whatever club the protagonist wants him to go back to, because the hope is in real life he'll perform and his rating will go higher than it currently is. So it's a win-win for both parties. I get a player that's ranked higher than I could possibly get, um, just via normal transfer market, etc. And the agent is getting an agreement with me where for 2 years I've got this player who will play regularly, and then depending on if his ratings improve, then he can put that player wherever he wants to put him. So, in my opinion, it's a win win for both parties. Obviously, when Soccerverse introduced the loan system, not that I know how it's going to work from the get go, however, it should make it easier and prevent having to go through all of this. But for the time being, this is the plan going forward. I've said two things from day one since joining the platform. Firstly, Soccerverse biggest strength, in my opinion, is the ability to be able to communicate with the whole community via the chat, which is here on the bottom right hand side. It's imperative, in my opinion, to build up relationships with other managers and probably more importantly with agents, because opportunities like this can arise. It makes absolutely no sense to me if I was a manager just to be arguing with agents. I'm not doing that, not doing that, whatever the situation is. Because, like in the real world, you want to build good relationships with everyone involved, because ultimately it makes the goal, whatever your goals are, much easier. And that leads on to my second point. When I first joined, I wanted to take over the lowest league club in England and try and get them to as high as possible, as quick as I could, and for as cheap as I could too. This situation, having relationships, good working relationships with agents such as Protagonist, will, in my opinion, no doubt help me 100% to achieve that goal. So again, why would I antagonize and irritate player agents? It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. You are a manager who totally disagrees with my opinion, which I respect. I get it. I genuinely believe you're making your life a lot harder on Soccerverse than it should be, because I've got no doubt the more and more this game grows, more player agents are going to get involved in the game. So that obviously means more players are going to have agents, and that's going to restrict you if you're totally against certain things like this happening. Like I said, it is just my opinion. If someone pays for the privilege to become a player agent, etc., they should have very much control or power, whatever the word you want to call it, in where that player goes. That to me is just common sense. So, anyway, guys, that was the video. I know it's a bit controversial, or very controversial, some might say. I just wanted to create this video because I want transparency on what's going on at this moment in time. as I've had messages from other people, they're obviously monitoring what's going in and out of my club and my personal balance. So they're obviously monitoring, thinking something dodgy's going on, which I can assure you 100% it isn't. Hence, I've made this video. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate the support. And obviously, the new season's going to be starting very soon. So we'll see you on season 2.